What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Guys, somebody sent me this request, tapping back into Sweden. Why is it hard to make friends in Sweden? Just a Brit abroad. We about to check this out, cause me personally, I feel like depending where you are, depending who you are, sometimes it can be hard to make friends. Especially in the beginning, meeting new people. That can always be something, something different, because now you're looking to see what you have, the similarities you have, the interests you have with certain people and stuff like that. Most time those type of things determine friendships and stuff as well. So we finna check this video out, see what it's about. Y'all make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. Hey, send me more video suggestions, and I got you. But let's see why it's so hard to make friends in Sweden.
We've all heard the rumours. It's hard to make friends in Sweden. Yes, whether you like it or not, and whether you think it's fact or you think it's fiction, you can't deny that there's this rumour that exists. The rumour that when you first move to Sweden, it can be really tough to make new friends. In fact, it's probably one of the most popular topics I get asked in the comments on my videos or across my various different social media channels, from people that are thinking about moving here to Sweden, but they're put off a little bit because they've heard it can be really tough to make new friends here. And then at the same time, if you're Swedish yourself, you're probably watching perplexed, thinking, is it really that much harder to make friends here than anywhere else? Where does that come from? So I decided that it was high time that I dug into this rumour and answered once and for all, is it really as hard to make friends in Sweden as you've heard? So let's get into it.
Okay.
If you've seen a couple of my videos before, you guys will know by now that I always try and be as fair as possible in my videos. So before we get started, I think it's really important to say that regardless of where you're moving, if you're not a student and you come to a country for the first time, it can be tough to make friends.
I think that's a difference too, because I know, for instance, as he said, being a student in college, that can be difficult for sure, because you probably won't start really communicating, talking to people until like a couple of classes and stuff, and that's about it, especially if you're not an athlete playing sports or anything involved in any other extracurricular activities. It's probably going to be tougher for you. When I first got to college, I was fortunate enough that some of my friends that I went to high school with, they was in college with me, so that's who I hung around. And later on, as I started going to the gym, playing basketball often, I started making new friends, So, but that wasn't until like, second semester. You think it 4 months? Took 4 months for me to really just trust certain new people that I was around and stuff, to really just call them a friend,
I don't think that's unique to Sweden. Yes, because when you move abroad to an unknown country for the first time, you don't have that same support network around you. You don't know the places that people hanging out. You don't know the events they're going to. It can take some time to adjust to that. So I think unless you're a student, wherever you are, it's of course going to be difficult. But that said, there's of course varying different levels of degrees of difficulty. That said, in the specific case of Sweden, I can kind of see where some of these rumours start to come from, on the basis that if you dig into the stereotypes that surround Swedish culture, you quite often find people talking about the Swedes as being quite introverted or reserved people. And whether you think that's true or false doesn't really matter at this point. It just helps to explain why maybe there's this perception from the outside that it can be difficult to meet Swedish people. And full disclosure here, guys, I have to admit, when I first arrived in Sweden, over my first couple of months, I also got the impression that maybe it was quite difficult to meet Swedish people and to make Swedish friends. And I had the added advantage that, of course, my girlfriend is Swedish, so I had that kind of entry point into the culture.
Hey, well, he at least has somebody, somebody he can call his friend, his girlfriend. That's still a friend. But I definitely get what he's saying. Definitely understand.
And as I've said in previous videos, I don't live in one of the 3 biggest cities here in Sweden. So I think that means you have to work even harder to make friends, because there's not so many social activities and opportunities as there would be in a Gothenburg or a Malmö, for example. So if I'm being honest with you guys, I remember myself thinking, I'm putting myself out there. I'm going to events every night of the week. I'm going to anything I can find on any website, and I'm still not making Swedish friends. So maybe these rumours are true. I can recall several occasions where I threw myself into situations that I probably wouldn't have done previously when I was back in England, where I went to clubs and activities that aren't really related to my hobbies and interests, just to try and meet with people and just try and make friends. And I still wasn't finding it as easy as I expected it to be. Don't get me wrong, I was making friends. All I'm saying is that the common theme here was that the people that I was meeting were also international people who were in a similar or a like-minded situation to me. Maybe they come over here to work, maybe they come over here to study, maybe they also had a girlfriend or a boyfriend from Sweden. And that brings us to the crux of the issue here, which isn't that necessarily it's hard to make friends in Sweden, but that it's hard to make Swedish friends in Sweden. And I like to think of myself as quite an extroverted person. I'm quite social. I prefer being in other people's
I'm the type, I'm an introvert, but I do talk to people. Like, most time I do prefer to be by myself, but I don't mind talking to people because, like, if I get to talking, I get to talking. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to talk a whole lot, probably more than that person, to the point where they probably like, all right, this guy he talked too much. I shouldn't have came over here. And I think that's sometimes how most introverted people are. Once they get going, they can really talk. But I definitely understand what he's saying because, like, say for instance, even at work, he might have some work friends, I don't know if he have a job in Sweden or nothing, but maybe at work, find some friends.
Company to being on my own, but I was still finding it hard 4 or 5 months later to make Swedish friends. I was working with Swedish people all day, but we weren't doing things together after work, and I wasn't seeing people in my social life that were Swedish, and I was thinking, what am I doing wrong here? But then I reached this point where suddenly I started to make lots more Swedish friends. I don't think I really observed it or really recognised it was happening at the time. I think it's one of those things that you only notice in retrospect. But these days I can look back and see that there was kind of this point over a period of a couple of months where suddenly I was a lot more social with Swedish people. And I don't want you guys to get me wrong, I'm not here today presenting myself as some self-proclaimed expert in meeting and greeting Swedish people, not by any stretch of the imagination. But in retrospect, there's a couple of different things that I've noticed that really started to make the difference and really helped me to make more Swedish friends. And I thought today maybe it'd be useful to share some of those tips with you guys. So as someone that's been there, take it from me if you will, these are some of the tips that helped me to make friends that are Swedish since I've been here in Sweden. The first thing that comes to mind is that it's really important to know the social norms and the cultural code here in Sweden. And the reason I'm emphasising this point front and centre is because I think you're going to find it really important. It will help to explain some of the behaviours and some of the attitudes that you see. And if you're not used to them, or it's different in the country that you're from, perhaps you won't really understand why things are happening the way they are. I know that was true for me at least. Things like the Swedes tend to be quite modest, culturally speaking at least. So if you come in and you're really brash and show off you talk about your achievements, you want to brag about the life that you live, it's not going to gel very well with the social atmosphere. Similarly, if you're from a country where it's quite common that you make friends with your neighbours, don't be surprised if you're facing an uphill battle if you try and make friends with people.
I agree, because most people don't want to always hear that stuff, because like you said, it can come off as braggy or, people just kind of flexing on other people type thing. Nobody wants to be around that person, People like just good conversation. If you're talking about achievements and stuff, it's probably like a well-rounded conversation that everybody's, putting in on that,
in the stairwell on the way outside of the building. Equally, in Sweden, when you meet someone out on the streets, you run into them and you have a couple of minutes where you exchange some pleasantries. If the conversation ends with, we should take a fika sometime soon, or we should come over for a games night, unless you know them super well, that's probably just a pleasantry. It's not intended that they're going to follow up on that. And that's not to say that there won't be exceptions. Of course, this is a generalization, and of course there will always be some people that do mean it and will follow up on it. But bear in mind that if it's somebody that you think you've got a bit of a blossoming friendship with, and you want to follow up on it, there's no reason not to. Drop them a message, and if they really want to hang out, I'm sure they'll tell you. In fact, I would go as far as to say it's important to point out that lots of Swedes have very long-standing friendships. You hear lots of stories about people that have met their best friends at primary school, at secondary school, and they've been friends ever since.
That's how mine basically is too. Like, most of my friends, we grew up together, I have some friends that I made as I've gotten older and stuff, but my primary were the people that, I went to school with growing up.
So once you've got those really close bonds that have existed for a couple of years, it's easy to see why 2 months later, you're not going to become their new best friend. Once you understand, for example, that the average Swede is making their social plans a couple of weeks in advance, you'll understand why if you ask them for fika this afternoon, or you ask them to come over for brunch for tomorrow, you might not get the reaction you're looking for. And it might not be because they don't want to, it just doesn't really fit with the agenda they've got going on for their week. And the other big game changer for me was trying new activities. And whilst I'm not advocating for 1 second that you should just drop all of the activities and hobbies that make you you, what I am saying is you also have to be prepared to step outside of your comfort zone and go outside of your box.
I wonder if there's like a social type of app where they show like different events that could go on. Like he said, I know he's in like a smaller town or city in Sweden, but it may not be too hard for him to go to a major city. I don't know what part he's at and how far it would be to go to the major city, but I know there's different like social apps with like social events that go on as well. I mean, you can You can pretty much look that stuff up online. Uh, shoot, I think there's an app called Meetup where they have like different things, like different interests, things that you're probably interested in. You can possibly find a community within that to, find new people. Could.
And the reason I'm saying that is because, of course, it's easy to think that the activities you did at home are the same activities that are important and prevalent in society here. And the reality is that there are, of course, different pastimes, different hobbies, different activities to suit different climates and different interests. And perhaps the activities that are really important to people here in Sweden are different to the ones that you were used to back at home.
Right.
And then you get this light bulb moment where you realise, actually, maybe people are meeting up and they are still social, but they're doing it in different environments to the ones that I'm used to where I'm from. And once that switch flips, you will realise that there are tons of different places to make friends here in Sweden. You just have to look in the spots that maybe you're not used to checking. So for example, here in Sweden, it's super popular to have lots of different sports associations, there's federations, interest groups, there's societies. Every BRF that you're living in will also have their own community group that come together and make the decisions for the building. So maybe you can even get involved in that. And I've mentioned this before in a previous video, but remember, the Swedes are super outdoorsy people in general. So one of the things you need to bear in mind is that lots of these activities that you're looking for maybe aren't based at your local gym. Lots of them will be outside. So you need to be looking at the places, for example, the local orienteering groups or the local running groups that take you outside, where all of the Swedes are coming together and they're hanging out multiple times a week. And perhaps that's an opportunity for you two to get involved. And my experience, at least, is that Swedes are very committed and loyal people. So expect also to have to show some commitment or some loyalty to the club or activity before you really form those bonds. You can't just go orienteering once and then expect you're going to be best mates with everybody that's there. You need to go regularly, on a regular basis, multiple times a week, show you're involved, and that's where you're going to make the friends. And like I said,
that's how I did it when it came to basketball. Like, we used to, especially my freshman year in college, we used to live in a gym. I lived in the gym, and who was in there? The same people every day. So that's how you can easily build a bond with people, just sharing the same interests and just being at the same location at the same time every day.
At the beginning of this video, it's super difficult to make friends wherever you are in the world once you're an adult. It's always going to be easier when you're a student or when you're a teenager. So it's not really any surprise that the people that you meet at most of these events tend to be people that are in a similar position to you, because they've come from abroad and they're looking to make friends and integrate. They're looking to start again. You have to remember that the local people aren't having that same experience. So you also need a healthy dollop of luck to meet some of these people. And what I mean by that is, of course, you have to be in the right place at the right time, and it has to be the right person, because they also have to invest a lot of time and energy to make a new friendship. And I owe a lot of credit to all of my Swedish friends that have chose to invest that time and effort with me. So I guess all I'm trying to say is respect the process and you get out what you put in. So bear that in mind and you'll be home free. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. I've added all I can on this subject. As I said at the beginning, I am no expert. I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm just sharing some of my own personal experiences. And there'll be other people out there that have had similar ones to me, and of course different ones. So if you think you can fill in some of the gaps and add some more tips and advice that helped you, share it in the comment section below. I'm sure you'll be helping somebody out that's maybe new to Sweden, doesn't really know how to get started. You could really make the difference. So make sure you go down into the comment section below once you finish watching this video and leave some tips. Then drop me a like if you haven't done that already, because I would super appreciate that. If you're not subscribed, I would love if you could be. I release new videos all of the time, and it'd be great to have more people along for the journey. And until I see you next time, thanks for watching and goodbye, guys.
I'm gonna definitely subscribe. This was good. Making friends is a process. Shoot, you can even throw in, like, even when it comes to relationship, I feel like the advice that you can possibly give on friendship, you can give on a relationship. Then eventually, once you're in that relationship, that's when, it become more than a friendship. But I feel like it's the same processes, but, making friends can be tough, especially when you don't know, like you said, where the spots are, or people that share similar interests as you, where you can go to find these people. So, but I know it'll be good. Like I said, I know me personally, I go to the gym, I like to play basketball. I think most of my Swedish subscribers, y'all might not, I don't think y'all are in towns where, there's professional basketball, but I follow professional Swedish basketball teams, for the men's and the women's league. I follow their national team. I follow those, the other minor teams and all those things. Like, I follow all these basketball teams in probably different places in Sweden, so I know it's there. and I watched the Euro League and stuff and FIBA. So I know basketball is there. So of course that sparked my interest. Where definitely got to see that when I go to Sweden. But y'all let me know what you think. Does it take you a long time to make friends? Do you still get the same friends that you grew up with? But going to a new place can be hard to make friends, but you got to trust the process. But guys, that's all I have for this video. Y'all make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, send down those recommendations, and y'all be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.